It's now time to figure out what you're going to say when you're asked the most important question in your med school application. Why do you want to be a doctor? And you probably tried to put thought into this. You tried to put some thought about what you're going to say. Then you got nervous because you don't know what you're going to say. And you said, I'll think about it in another day. Well, you can only put this off for so long until you're actually on the way to your interview and you're trying to figure out what you're going to say. You want to prepare this in advance. And it's going to be hard for me to tell you what you should say. I've built this series and these practice scenarios on, avoiding cliches and actually giving you some concrete information, because there's no concrete information available on the internet on how to apply to med school and how to make yourself a competitive applicant. So I wanted to be the first person to provide that. But when it comes down to a question like this, it's hard for me to tell you what the cookie cutter answer is going to be. I can provide you some framework or a pipeline that can be used to determine what you should say. And I'm also going to tell you guys some things that you definitely do not want to say. We'll take a look right now. Now, everybody who looks at this question, the first thing that comes to their mind the first time they look at it, right? So the first ever time you're asked why you want to be a doctor, the first thing that you probably said, or the only thing you probably said, was, I want to help people. Now, say you're at a family reunion and one of your aunts that you can't remember her name asks you what you want to do, and you say you want to be a doctor, and then she says, why do you want to be a doctor? And you'll say, I want to help people, and she'll say, that's nice. That's nice. Well, that's your aunt, right? She might be impressed that you want to be a doctor to help people, but the admission board is not. If you go ahead and tell them that you want to help people, and that's the only thing you say during your interview, number one, you only took up about 5 seconds of the 8 minutes you need to be talking about this topic. Number two, they're going to come back with the same reply in pretty much each case. Doctor's not the only person who helps people. The garbage man helps people. The teachers in a school help people. The cashier at the local grocery store help people. If you just want to help people and that's your only goal here, why do you want to be a doctor? So, number one thing you do not want to say is, I want to help people. Don't even say this. Get this out of your vocabulary. Practice not even saying it when your aunt asks you why you want to be a doctor. Don't ever say this. The earliest possible, remove these words from your vocabulary, because it's just not going to do any good. You might be a little bit nervous when you're at your interview and you might accidentally say this. Don't. You're just going to lead into a trap. If they manage to come back with that reply saying other people help people, you're going to just sit there stuttering for 8 minutes and, well, you're not going to get into med school. So we want to avoid that. But what exactly do we want to say? Well, here's the idea, right? There's two things. We have the medical field. I could just say, let's go backspace here. We have medicine. So we have medicine. And we have you. Now, we know, or they know at least, I should say, the admission board knows what you can do for medicine, right? Everything on your CV will show what you can do for medicine. They know what skills you have. They know which activities you've done and which skills and experiences you've gained from those activities and why you think they're important. They know what your contribution to medicine is going to be. However, you need to tell them that you know what medicine is going to do for you. You need to have some expectations about what you want the field of medicine to provide you back, right? It might seem like a selfish idea, but you need to have it. You need to know what to get in return from medicine. So this over here, this part up here, let's go up here. This part, let's go down. Sorry, I went up too much. This is going to be the big question. So this is the big question. Whatever you tell them is going to be the answer to this question. It's what medicine can do for you. And it's what you need to figure out. So how can we go about answering this question? Well, at the start of this series, I provided you guys with my opinion on research, right? I said if you're going to do research, the best thing to do is get some science research that has some form of medical relevance. It doesn't need to be something that is directly medicine. You don't have to be operating on people. If you're operating on people while you're an undergrad, chances are the person who let you do that will be in jail by the time you're watching this video. So you want to find some research that is somewhat medically relevant. So we wanted research that is somewhat medically relevant. Now, I want to show you guys the process we'll go through when we pick an activity that we want to use to explain why we want to be in medicine. It doesn't need to be your research. The reason why I said science research that's medically relevant is recommended is because it already gives you the answer of what you want to do when you're answering this question. You can have some other things on your CV which have influenced you to want to become a doctor, right? It's making sure that you explain, why that activity motivated you so much and what, specifically in medicine you want to pursue now that you have done that activity, which is why research makes it a little bit easier. The connection is pretty clear, but I don't want you guys to think that this is the only way you can go about answering this question. It's just one pathway I want to give you guys so you have some sort of concrete thing to work off of when you're thinking about what you're going to say. So let's say we did research, right? We were doing research on fungi. Let's go with fungi, right? Say we were studying fungi in the lab. We were studying fungi, just studying some sort of fungi, right? Or some yeast. You're just studying some sort of microorganism. And that's fair enough. You were just studying its effects in the lab. You were growing it in petri dishes. You were seeing, how it affects, when it's interacting with bacteria, because we know that fungi produce antibiotics, which are meant to kill bacteria so they don't have to compete for a resource pool, right? Something like that. So you were studying fungi in the lab, right? You're studying fungi in the lab. And that's great. Well, is that medically relevant? It is medically relevant. It's strongly medically relevant because one thing that a lot of people don't consider is a lot of people die each year due to fungi. It's one of the things that just doesn't seem to be talked about on a big scale. So when you go to your interview and you're trying to figure out why you want to be a doctor, you can say that during your time that you were studying fungi in the lab, you gained such an appreciation for how this microorganism affects human health and how it kills so many people that you want to be involved in this field and you want to be involved on a medical level. You want to be able to see how these microorganisms interact with humans. Maybe interact's not the best word, right? How they harm humans. And the only way you're going to be able to, see this to the maximum, the only way you're going to be able to pursue your interest in fungi and make sure you can see how fungi affect humans is going to be if you're able to study it with a medical degree. That's the way that I would tie something like this in. So we have fungi in the lab, right? Fungi in the lab was what we were doing when we were in undergrad. We were pretty much doing something small, just studying them, growing them, and seeing how they interact with bacteria, right? So the things we were doing were not necessarily directly related to medicine, right? We can just go ahead and say we were growing them. We can say we were interactions with bacteria. So these are things we're doing in the lab, right? We're not operating on anybody. We're just studying these things. Now, when it comes time to ask the big question, why do you want to be a doctor? Why doctor? You can use the fungi in the lab, which you were studying, which is great because you can be bringing up something on your CV. You can say that you had such an interest in fungi, you want to study how fungi affect humans. Or you want to pursue it on a higher level, right? The exact wording you'll use, that's up to you, right? I think if you have this concrete framework about what you should do, the rest you'll be able to put together, right? What the proper words you want to do to actually say this. But that's an example of how I would use something on my CV, which is great. You're making reference to something you're proud of on your CV to actually tie into the question. Now, there's a bunch of different ways about doing this. If I want to make a video for every single possible way we can answer this question, I'd have like a million videos. So if you have any specific questions on answering this question, like using the format that I showed you, pick something on your CV and explain how that thing on your CV, you have a real interest in what you were studying or what you were doing and you want to pursue it further. And the only way that you can actually pursue it further is if you are a doctor. That's how I would answer this question. If you have any questions or comments, things you want to discuss, leave them in the comments below. I'll answer you within a few hours and we can discuss some things on your CV that we can use to answer this question. Although you are dead set on becoming a doctor, believe me, I know the feeling. A lot of people know the feeling. It's just hard to answer this question no matter how keen you are on becoming a physician. So comments below if you have any questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll have a few more practice scenarios coming up after this.